You're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion right here on the Prairie Punk Press Network. The views expressed by any host or any guest on the Prairie Punk House Companion are the personal views or opinions of the people who express them and do not reflect the views or opinions of anyone else on the show or any company, employer, or any other organization that the individual expressing them has or will affiliate with in the past, present, or future. Hi everyone, you're listening to a Prairie Punk House Companion. We are on episode 9, and my name is Neckbone.
Hi, I'm Jerbear. I just got new tattoos.
I did not.
Ha! Poser.
But we do have a guest this week who may or may not have gotten tattoos recently.
This is Little Johnny. We've talked about him many times. He is our official gap filler. So... Lil Johnny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Lil Johnny. Back in the day, I was called this because I was little. I was a little bit younger, a little bit littler. But now I guess it's more of like an ironic name because I'm 40 and I weigh 220 pounds. But I'm a big fan of the show. Very happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. How old were you when we met? Were you 15? 16?
14, I think. 14 or 15.
And
14 or 15.
Do I remember correctly that we were playing some sort of football in some sort of park the first time we met? And also, why the fuck were we doing that?
We were like playing catch. As I recall, we like got a 40 or two, and we were like in a park after dark in like Olathe playing catch, and yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that's how I remember it. It seems really weird. A very weird thing for that group of people to be doing.
Right. This is probably not the same time. There was at some point around the time that we first met where, and I talked about this in a past episode where we went to your house and you were distilling something in your bathtub and you're like, oh, I can't use the shower down here because I got my distillery going on. What was that? What were you distilling?
No, I just had some like, I would get apple cider and I would ferment it into alcoholic apple cider, which normally you would do with brewer's yeast and sugar. But I would just take the bread yeast from the grocery store that I worked at and just put some bread yeast in there and a little sugar and like a plastic bag with a rubber band as a fermentation lock and make myself some boozy cider. And one time... it came out pretty good. And then the other times it was absolutely terrible.
Okay, so like the liquid wasn't in the bathtub. It wasn't like a vat of cider. You had like a bottle with some yeast and shit in it. Okay.
I was doing that.
That's not what I was picturing in my head. Was I there?
I think it was me, Sarah, and BJ.
I was going to say, I don't remember being there. I don't know that I ever went to Johnny's house. Most of the time we were at Nick's house.
Yeah, we went to Nick's house a lot.
I lived right by Nick's, I was like a street over, basically. You need to have him on here. I could call him. I never call him, but I text him.
Yeah.
I message him every now and again. He was in El Dorado a couple 5 years ago or something.
He was in El Dorado?
Yeah, he has family there.
Oh.
How did you get into punk rock, Johnny?
Well, for myself, because, like, my dad is a big music guy and was into punk-adjacent stuff. My dad really likes Lou Reed. My dad loved the MC5, but did not like the Stooges. So, but really, punk for myself, it was Green Day. It was absolutely Green Day. I heard Green Day on the radio, thought it was awesome. I listened to it. I got the Green Day CD. It had the Lookout Records catalog. It had the word punk in it. So I would like go to the library and get music books and look up punk in the index to learn more. And like from there, I was just, I'm a music guy. I got sort of obsessive about it. And I was just really interested in all things punk and learning more. And then you go into that stage where it's like when, I'd see somebody wearing a cool t-shirt or something, I'd write the band name down to like try and check for and find later. And especially if I saw somebody with a fucking punk jacket, I was trying to get near to them just to write down the name of every band. So later I could hopefully find it and check it out. But a lot of this shit was sort of hard to find, especially like I was living in Johnson County, which I'm sure most listeners know what that is. But if you don't, it's just the suburbs west of Kansas City.
It is just the epitome of corporate America suburbs. That's literally what it is.
Strip malls and houses.
Yeah, but then there was G Coffee. I'd go to shows. In middle school, they started having shows. One of the first one I went to was at the Lenexa Community Center, and it was like, three punk bands, and based on their names, you like sort of knew what they sounded like. At least like, one of them's like One Concern. It's like, oh, wonder if they're a straight edge band.
Right.
And then the Distorted, which were like, I don't know, I just consider it classic 90s punk, like Oppressed Logic or something. And they were like from Wyandotte County, which if as a
so they
listener
were more
you don't
legit
know.
than you guys.
Oh, fuck, man. I don't know. I thought it was like Wyandotte County is so redneck. Like, I thought it was fucking cool. There's a band coming from there, and Nuclear Family. And then I just started, there was a G Coffee. It was pretty good. And I remember myself, but not just me, like Chris Kellogg, Joe, the rest of them. If there was a show at G Coffee, we went. Regardless of the genre, really. So
I mean, that's how it was back there. You went to a show because it was a show, not because who was playing.
Right.
Yeah.
You went there for the community. You went there for the event. You went there to meet new people. I mean, yeah, the music was cool and important, but more than anything, it was like hanging out with like-minded people. At least in Wichita, it was like that because we were so few and far between. So,
I would go back and say like G Coffee, despite being in Olathe, was cool. It's just like a room in a warehouse. Like I don't know. It's
I've always heard good stories about G Coffee. I mean, it's always with a chuckle, but at the same time, like they had a lot of cool fucking shows. Maybe describe G Coffee for people who aren't familiar.
Yeah, well, it's like Main Street Olathe, which Olathe was a small city before Kansas City swallowed it up, and that's initially one of the spots where like they would drive the cattle up from Texas and put them on the trains there. So it was like an old weird cowboy town. But in the 90s it wasn't. It's just like this decaying suburb, and then right on that downtown drag there's just an empty warehouse with a room where they had shows, and it was called G Coffee. But they weren't like a coffee shop during the day. I don't know. I don't even think I ever bought like any sort of drink there once. Like I just went to the shows. Yeah,
It's
it was
weird. Yeah, like there's so many punk venues that were like that. They were just like like an old warehouse, no bar to speak of, nowhere to like purchase beverages, just an open warehouse, and there's a band playing, and you're like, I guess this is legit, but I mean, I don't fucking know.
So how long were you into punk rock and into your local scene before we met? Because you were, like I said, you were really fucking young. So like what was up before we showed up, and how long had you been a little punk rocker?
like 3 years. I mean, I was into like by 6th grade, I was into Screeching Weasel. So, and that's like, that's not like deep punk, but I consider that, that's fucking punk. What are they if not a punk band? And then like 7th grade, you find Black Flag and Minor Threat from there. And then I met you guys like, sometime, I was like a freshman. I was like 14. It's like the end of my freshman year. And so it had been a few years, And even by that point, I don't know, finding like cool UK stuff. Mm-hmm. Peace punk, like D-Beat. That was like the year I found D-Beat, and I still fucking love D-Beat. I know it's silly, but
I mean, I'm fine with some D-Beat. I talk some shit on Discharge just because I think they're really overrated. I don't dislike just Discharge. It's just like the hype around them kind of bothers me. Like, do all those people really like Discharge, or do they just like their logo?
Man, let me tell you, those are some cool fucking t-shirts. You have to admit, those are some cool fucking t-shirts.
Look, they've got good marketing.
Yeah, I didn't know Discharge had some hits.
I'm not trying to say they're not a good band. I just don't think they live up to the hype that some people put on them.
How many people do you think have a T-shirt and don't realize it's a band?
I think that was probably a bigger thing before. Was I talking to one of you that saw a kid? I was talking to somebody that saw a fucking like a kid, like an elementary school kid in a Dystopia shirt. Was that one of you?
Dude, no, but when we went to Disneyland 3 years ago, there were 6 Dystopia shirts at fucking Disneyland. They're having such a fucking moment right now. Like, I'm stoked for Dystopia, and I hope they're making money off of like their newfound like underground fame, because I was at family Christmas with my wife's family, and this dude, while I was wearing my fucking El Dopa shirt over there, and he's like, "What shirt is that?" And I was like, "El Dopa." And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was a Dystopia shirt." And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about, man?" This dude was like 17 years old. He looked like a jock, and he's asking me about fucking Dystopia. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? It is wild. It's fucking wild, man.
I'm telling you. I mean, I think maybe your tattoo artist, she might be onto something. Maybe we need to market to the younger kids a little bit. I don't know why they want to hear two to three people in their 40s talking about trying to remember things from their punk days.
I don't know. I bet it's harder. I bet it is more difficult now to have experiences that we had than just because of technology, because of social media, shit like that. Like, the antics we got up to probably couldn't happen now.
I feel like people, and this might be something that's due to post-COVID, I don't know, but I feel like people are more disconnected than they were. Like, even young people are and maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to a lot of shows, but I feel like fewer and fewer people are getting together and getting like together in person and doing stuff
in person. I mean, I think people are still connected. It's just not in person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was talking to my oldest kid about parties the other day. I was like, do high school kids have parties anymore? And she's like, I don't know. We watched Donnie Darko last night, and they have that big party at the end of the movie. I was like, this is what parties were like in the 90s. Like, this is an accurate representation of parties I went to.
Right.
And I don't think she's never been to a party.
That's wild.
Anything like that. It is wild, but she's also like a really good kid. Like,
I think I was like 15.
She's not at all bad
to a
like
drinking
me.
party. I think I was like 15.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Johnny was way younger because he was hanging out with us.
He was like 12.
14. I was there, yeah.
14, coming to the Boston apartments with go to bed puking in my bathtub.
Yeah. I mean, I was 12 years old when I bought my first pack of cigarettes, and the first time I drank to get drunk, I was 15. But I'll tell you, if I could have done it sooner than that, I would have. It was not from lack of trying. That's just when I finally found someone who could actually buy me booze. I was 15.
We used to go to a hotel and get cigarettes out of their cigarette machine because they just had a cigarette machine sitting out. So you get 8 quarters would get you a pack of cigarettes because they were only $2
Yeah.
out of the cigarette machine.
The Kmart by my dad's house had the cigarettes like in front of the counter. This is before they were behind the counter. So you get your candy bar and like lean up against the counter and put the candy bar and just stuff a pack in your pocket. I wasn't even paying for them. But then it's like you just got whatever your hand happened to fall on. So it's like, oh, I guess it's Salem today. Or
Shit.
Well,
Harley
Virginia
Davidson.
Slims. Yeah.
And Johnny, I don't know if you're old enough to have experienced trucker speed, but you could go to a gas station and buy mini thins, which is basically just fucking speed. It's just straight up amphetamine. And
That's what got me from San Diego to Wichita in a car.
Yeah.
Was just popping those,
trucker speed,
smoking a cigar and stopping to piss when I needed to, and that's that's it.
I don't think I ever had those. I mean, well, it
was fucking
No-Dose
over the counter. No-Dose is
that?
caffeine pills. Those make you sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
And
tried
there's
it.
like Stingers, and I tried those. That's supposed to be like energy pills, and I did not like it. But
Mini thins are what we would buy from the gas station, and it was just straight up amphetamines.
Yeah.
It was supposedly it was to help with like breathing and shit, but it was over the counter trucker speed.
Yeah.
And we ate the shit out of that in high school.
I didn't do that. It was so easy to get Ritalin. Like, you could get Ritalin for free, you know?
Right. Just get diagnosed with ADD.
They were trying to, well, Adderall. I had an Adderall prescription for a little bit, and then I didn't really take it as intended. I would just take the pills and save them up for like Friday or whatever. You know, I'm going to go out, and then, you know.
I had bad reactions and bad experiences mixing alcohol and Adderall. It was not good.
Yeah, it sort of. I did it for a little while, but it would put me in like a bad mood or just like a cold.
I would
mood
black
or
out.
something.
I would be blacked out for like 6 hours, like completely strung out, and blacked out at the same time, like running amok with no fucking memory whatsoever what was going on. It was bad news. So what was back to questions? What was your scene like? Was there, especially being so young, was there a lot of gatekeeping and shit talking going on, or was everybody pretty chill with you? Was it easy to get into you know, music and meet new people and get into the scene, or were people kind of shitty because you were young, or what was that like for you?
Well, there was both. Like, I remember, like, like 13, 14 getting fucked with by, skinheads, whoever. Like, there were dicks. But then there was, like, you guys. There was BJ and Sarah, who were immediately super nice to me. Like, Nick, like, meeting Nick and Andy Tormala, too, were, like, they went to my high school and, like, made me mixtapes and stuff. I met a lot of people that were just immediately super nice. It was both.
All right, so now the really, really important question here. Which side of the shit split? Blatz or filth?
Because I've already heard you do this question. I've already thought about this. And I love both, but it's, even though these days, I listen to the Blatz side more, but overall, filth. In my life, I've listened to the filth side more. In fact, I immediately liked them both, but I don't think I really appreciated the Blatz side as much until much later. So it's gotta be filth for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That
thanks
makes
for not being a
sense.
fence rider, at least.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for picking a side, or not being a fucking poser.
Right.
There's three kinds of punks in the world: Blatz punks, filth punks, and fucking posers.
No, it's yeah. Filth.
I still choose Blatz. I have not changed. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I could have told you that. You didn't have to tell me that. I could have told you that.
But yeah, I agree. When you were talking earlier about how, like, you got started with Screeching Weasel, and maybe they're not the most, not a band people think of when they think of, like, punk, like real punk music. I was a huge Screeching Weasel fan too back in the day. It's one of those, like, we all got to start somewhere. And, if somebody had introduced me right off the bat to, bands like, fucking Dirt or Flux of Pink Indians or something like that, I probably wouldn't have liked them if that was the first thing I heard. I would have been like, what the fuck is this? Like, why are you trying to, like, it's one of those, you got to get started with, like, Green Day, Screeching Weasel. For me, it was No Effects, the Vandals and stuff like that. And, maybe not everybody, maybe some people, and Jerbear, you might disagree with this. I think you said you went head first into a little bit harder punk, like right off the bat, but I think most people start with kind of the poppier stuff and then work their way up.
No, they do, or they come over from metal directly into the hard stuff. You could be on, like, you see that too, but
pop punk and skate punk is what was accessible at the time. So that's what got me into it first. No Effects was my first favorite punk rock band, much like you. And we're talking about Screeching Weasel, like, questioning their punk validity, but in the mid '90s there was no question about it. Right. Screeching Weasel was a fucking punk band, and it wasn't debated. Looking back now, and Ben Weasel is such a fucking asshole, and our tastes are a lot different, and we've discovered a lot more music since then. But in the mid '90s, like, Screeching Weasel was really fucking punk to 13, 14-year-old kids. For our age group, I mean, I think that was definitely a valid punk rock band at the time.
Yeah, for sure. I think Green Day fell out of favor with the punk scene pretty quickly.
Pretty quick. After they signed, I mean, Dookie was the entry point for a lot of punks, a little younger than us and our age and younger. But older punks, I mean, that was when they stopped liking them because they signed to a major. But and Green Day is kind of the first few albums all sounded the same. So when they put Dookie out, it wasn't like they changed their sound when they signed to a major label. Even I think whatever record came after that was probably still pretty standard Green Day, early Green Day type pop punk. But I don't even know if they considered themselves a punk band. I think they were always just we're like a power pop band or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But but coming up through the Berkeley scene, I mean, they definitely had the credentials at the time until they signed to the major label anyway.
Right. Well, and they had I think it was just the lead singer's other project, Pinhead Gunpowder. Was anyone else from Green Day?
I don't think so. It was Jeff Ott, Aaron Comet Bus, Billy Joe, and I don't know who else was in it. Was Jesse Michaels in that?
I don't know.
Not Jesse Michaels.
I don't think so.
I don't remember who, but I don't. When did Pinhead Gunpowder release their records? I don't know. So, was it like a side project of Green Day?
Yeah, I think it was. I think that they were releasing albums along with Green Day releasing albums, if I remember right. I do remember. I have not listened to them since probably the 90s, but I remember liking them a lot better than Green Day.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Early Crimp Shrine.
Oh yeah,
gives me some Green Day vibes every now and again.
Yeah.
Some 15 and early Green Days, all that.
They sound pretty
East Bay
similar
stuff. Yeah. Well, not all of it. A lot of it sounds way different, but
right. Clearly, the best pop punk band from then is Grimple, though.
Yes.
We have to go to another Grimple show so you can see them. So you can remember seeing them, I should say.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, I think this episode with Little Johnny here with us, and he seems to have a better memory than us since he's constantly filling our gaps with more accurate information than what we give. We thought this would be a good episode to talk about some shows that we went to and some of the cool shit that was going on between Kansas City and Lawrence with the Flanders House, the Pirate House, and shit like that. Did you ever go to the Outhouse? Were you too young for that, Johnny?
Never as a punk club.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was over.
So what was it when you went there then?
On my 21st birthday, we went to the Outhouse as a gentleman's club.
Yes.
Bring your own beer, gentlemen's club. Yeah.
Uh-huh. in a cinder block hut in the middle of a cornfield.
Yeah, but I never got to go when it was still the Outhouse, which would have loved to have seen that.
What was your first punk show?
Maybe that Lenexa Community Center one. Or like the very first one was just in this, it was like there were 4 spectators and 4 band members, and it was the Harry Carey Angels, and it was my buddy Brandon's older brother's band, and they did like some Op Ivy covers in a garage. That was my first one. Yeah,
that's pretty punk rock.
We'll count that. Yeah, we'll count that. That counts. I am particularly interested in a lot of the shows at the Flanders House, and at some point we'll have to have Joe or Chris Kellig or somebody on too, to Nick to tell it from the perspective of somebody who lived there. But I mean, you were young going to Flanders House shows, and
you drove me to some shows at the Flanders House, Johnny.
Oh yeah.
So tell us about some of the shows you went to at the Flanders House, and kind of what the general vibe was at the Flanders House.
Well, it was awesome. It was filthy, like
so fucking gross.
At one point, there were like squirrels that lived in the attic. It was there were people that lived there, but then there was also just the rotating cast of characters that didn't live there but actually lived there. It was next to the Simpson house, which was much nicer. I wish I'd organized my thoughts about this. I'm just thinking about the great shows I saw there. I can't remember, because like Calloused played from here, from Minnesota, and they were amazing. And I think it was that show was that like after them, there was this other band we'd never heard of that jumped on that played after. So Calloused played, and everybody sort of left. And this band sets up in the corner, and it's just one person with a guitar and a drummer sitting on a milk crate. And it was the first fucking Against Me tour. Do you guys remember this?
Oh,
Fuck
shit.
yeah, I do.
That was either Calloused or State of Fear.
Thought they played twice there. No, it was Calloused because it wasn't State of Fear. But the State of Fear show, I already lived in Lawrence because I tried to ride my bike home and crashed because I was too drunk. So the Calloused show, we still lived in Kansas City. And yeah, I think because Against Me played there twice. The second time was the one that Nick videoed that is on YouTube that I'm going to post when this episode comes out. It was Calloused. And who's in Calloused?
Yeah.
What band was
at the
Calloused
Flanders
before?
House? I thought that was at the Pirate
Yeah,
House.
that was Flanders.
Oh,
it was
Calloused
Flanders.
had members of State of Fear. I can't
That's what I
remember
thought.
who. I think I have the CD. But
And
could
who
dork out
was
about
the
that
singer from? Because didn't they have a female singer?
yeah, and
what
I can't
band was
remember what
she in?
else. I can't remember what else she was ever in other than Calloused.
Okay. I couldn't remember. Yeah, that was Calloused was fucking great, and I was so stoked about it because I knew it was members of State of Fear. And I was like, well, I'm never going to get to see State of Fear, but here's their new band. And little did I know that like a year later, fucking State of Fear would be in town. So
They were
yeah,
great. My high school hardcore band were the first band, JBK, but this was before we had a singer or a guitar player, so it was just me and Jesse on bass and drums.
Nice.
And I'm sure we were terrible, but
I think I still have the JBK SBK split in my garage.
Fuck yeah.
I have extra copies if you...
that first Against Me tour, they were just driving around a station wagon, right? Because it was just the two of them, and
they had a cassette and
yeah, that was fucking rad. That second show was really fucking cool too. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about some other shit before that?
I don't remember the second show.
You don't remember the second? You don't remember the second show?
I don't remember the second show. I know.
So
I know.
they were there with the full band. So they were headlining. It was at the Flanders House, and that was when I was wandering around outside. I think I was maybe skeezing on some girl from Kansas City. I don't really remember, but I found a muffler in the middle of the road and brought it in, and Andy IY was dancing around with it, and Laura Jane Grace was like, "You can't fucking hardcore dance with a muffler," or something like that. And then people started like crowd surfing the muffler around the show, and yeah, that was the full band because they had the drummer and bass player as well. It was so fucking good, and they played like a bit of. Fuck, I forget the song right now, but I'll post the video and everybody can watch it, and you can see me grab the camera from Nick and growl into it like a big stupid idiot, and I fogged the camera up really bad. But that was a fun show. Like, yeah, everybody was like so stoked about that muffler for some reason. I think maybe they thought that it got ripped off of an actual car, but I just found it in the middle of the street.
No, you need to go with the story that you ripped it off of a cop car.
I ripped it off. I mean, yeah, I ripped it off a cop car, and then I beat the cop with it, and then I brought it inside, and the muffler was the hero.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Now that's canon now.
What were the other good Flanders House shows? I mean, like, I always liked all of Austin Lucas's bands.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Rune played there. 23rd Chapter.
23rd Chapter played somewhere else.
Yeah, I think Pirate House.
I think it was the Pirate House. I still lived in Wichita when 23rd Chapter played, so it might not have even been the Pirate House.
Great band. Oh, man, their album art
was sick as fuck.
Dude, it looks like an 8th grader did it with colored pencils. I mean, I like it. I
mean, yeah. So,
and then did you see like K10 Prospect? He had that band K10 Prospect.
No, I didn't.
Oh, they were amazing.
That's cool. So, I was talking to him because I still talk to Austin every now and again, and I was talking to him and brought up the 23rd Chapter show because we met. I was still living in Wichita, and Justin had just gotten back from traveling around Europe, and he's the one that told me about the 23rd Chapter show up there. And I don't even remember how I got up to Lawrence, but I ran into Austin, and then he and I went and like looked around for Justin all over town. I don't think we ever found him because Austin and Justin had communicated through mail and IM for fucking years, probably, because Justin knows everybody.
It's like another thing about growing up in Kansas and getting into, like, I don't know, crust and a lot of this political hardcore is I really thought, I was like, everybody has good ideas, and they're like a lot of vegetarians, people into being DIY and, like not being racist, not being homophobic. And then like you sort of get out in the world and find out what like that crust scene was really like, even here. Like one of the really big crust labels here that had a magazine where they were like heroin dealers. It's like a lot of this shit that it's like a lot of these people were pretty hard cool. And pretty gnarly, and I wasn't. I was
You're just sweet little Johnny.
Yeah.
Mostly. Some of looking back and trying to remember stuff, I'm like, man, I'm so embarrassed of myself. You know what I
mean? I mean, you were younger than us, so I didn't think shit you were doing was embarrassing at all. Like, I thought you were cool as fuck for being 6 years younger than me or whatever. I was an embarrassment to myself, though.
The scene in places like Wichita and Kansas City, I think, maybe it doesn't have, like you're talking about, like how kind of hardcore some of these people in the other scenes are, but I think it was like a little more chill and cool and laid back in our scenes because all we really had was each other. There wasn't, I mean, we were, at Jerbear, like we've talked about this in other episodes where like, like rednecks would try to kick our asses all around us everywhere we went. Like, we were constantly under threat from outside forces. So I don't know. I feel like there's a little more solidarity internally than maybe other scenes.
I think it was more open-minded creatively too. Like, I loved Derailer. If you go back and like put on the Esoteric split, like that, they don't sound like any other band. Even the song structure is not like verse, chorus. It's just like this weird part, this weird part, and like Wormwood too. Nobody sounded like them. Yeah. Even Element, because I fucking loved Element. Yeah, and Element was crazy. It's like this song sort of sounds like black metal, and this is like a sort of a catchy indie rock song.
This sounds like Swing Kids.
Yeah, like I don't think I think that in like I lived in Minneapolis for a long time. I love it here, but I don't think you don't see that kind of outside the box stuff. If you want to see a band that sounds just like D-Beat from Japan in 1984, like there's somebody that has that on lockdown, but it's not as outgoing.
Well, I mean, I guess they're not
even
from
back in the days of the Bostons. I got turned on to like a lot of stuff, like the Pogues. Like when you guys lived at the Bostons, that's the first time I heard like the Pogues or the Pixies, or maybe even like Tom Waits. Yeah. Like I was like, we weren't just listening to punk, and I was being exposed to all this other stuff that I still love, that I don't know, was blowing my mind at the time.
One of the weird, I know this is kind of off topic from Kansas and our shows and shit, but one of the weirdest bands from that area, I think they're from Wisconsin, I think, not from Minneapolis, but Civil Disobedience. That demo tape.
They were from
that demo tape,
Detroit.
7-inch. Oh, that's right. They're Detroit. So their demo tape and that 7-inch are fucking weird. So good, so diverse. Like such an interesting sound. Their LP I went back and listened to, not great. Not very interesting really at all. But
what happened?
Those two releases, they moved to Minneapolis.
They moved to Minneapolis and
got boring.
Yeah, got more. I don't know the whole story, but you hear stuff like, they moved to Minneapolis. They're this big scene. They're cool. They're hanging out. They're not practicing as much. They're not taking the same kind of chances. Like a vacuum can be great for creativity.
Well, back then regionalism was a huge thing. There was a Minneapolis sound. There was a New York sound. There was a Southeast sound. There was a Midwest sound. And like so much of that doesn't exist anymore because of communication, like so much faster. Yeah. That a lot of regionalism in music is dead, which is too bad, but it's also a lot easier to find stuff.
And having access to like everything, that's cool too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Without that, you're not going to see all those 8-year-olds in Dystopia shirts.
Right.
I wish that, and I don't know, maybe there are bands who are experimenting. Maybe I'm just old and I don't listen to a lot of new bands. I don't know. But I do wish that even though, it is a little more, in the digital world, it's easier to, get different music around to different parts of the world. And maybe, there isn't that regional sound that there used to be. It would be nice to hear some bands kind of experiment more and kind of, play and think outside the box more. And maybe they do. Mm-hmm. But I can't think of any new bands that really do that. Maybe I just don't. Maybe I'm not keeping up on them as good as I should.
My oldest listens to some pretty interesting music. It's like the easiest way for me to explain it is a mixture between like anti-folk and hardcore punk, not like East Coast hardcore, but like early 80s hardcore from like LA or something like that. Like an interesting mix of punk rock and anti-folk. It's pretty interesting. I like it. She listens to some pretty cool stuff.
What, any bands you want to shout out that you can think of?
Not really. Not right now.
Yeah, okay.
I can't. It's hard to think of them. She likes to drive around or ride around with me in the car and play music for me. I don't remember a ton of names. But.
Oh, yeah. My kid still just listens to whatever the fuck I want him to listen to because he's 3.
He's 3.
Yeah.
What do you make him listen to?
Well, I have banned Baby Shark from the car because I can't listen to it without smashing into something. So there's some stuff he likes. He does like 15 a lot. And he calls Greed is the fast song. No, sorry, Greed is the loud song. Always tell the voter what the voter wants to hear is that's the fast song.
That's such a good song.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Fugazi is
oh.
the slow song. I forget which Fugazi song he calls the slow song, but that's the slow song.
When my kids were little, I played a lot of Jonathan Richmond in the car. Yes. A lot of
Great
They
Kid
Might Be
music.
Giants in the car. Some Space Ghost Coast to Coast songs.
Nice. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I also listen to a lot of hip hop in the car, so I have to be careful what I listen to. I don't know if you notice they curse a lot in hip hop.
I think there's a lot of really creative stuff going on right now because I do think that genre doesn't mean the same thing as it used to. It
doesn't. Yeah.
Being less regional, it's like I really like. Have you guys heard Homefront? Do you want to hear a shouty, oi type singer playing with a band that sort of sounds like New Order? Because that's what it is. And it's catchy as hell. And it's fucking great. But just
mix.
Stuff like put it on. It's also like
new wave.
It's like this should not work, but this works amazingly well.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's called Homefront.
It's called Homefront, and the dude's from Canada, so it's even weirder.
It sounds suspiciously like nationalistic.
Yeah, it does.
No, it's
I believe you. I trust your judgment.
Yeah. Or
I'm
like
gonna read
I really love the Royal Headache. I guess that's not new, but that's like, hey, you want to hear Sam Cooke singing for the Buzzcocks? It's like, yeah. Sign me up, and they fucking delivered. That was a great band.
So we talked a little bit about the State of Fear show, but that was fucking incredible. I don't remember a ton about the show other than them rocking my ass off. And then I was wearing Justin's cowboy hat made out of a cowboy boot.
I remember that.
I don't remember if I explained on the podcast what that means, but when I wore that hat, I called it a hat night, and I intentionally got as wasted as I possibly could. So the State of Fear show obviously was going to be a hat night because it's State of Fear. Do you remember who they played with? Either of you?
Maybe I would remember better if you guys just recorded this and then listened to it, and then I'm driving to work and I'm like texting you about it. I don't remember who else it was.
Neckbone, you would have been in St. Louis, so I don't know if you were at that show or not.
I think I was. I think I drove to Lawrence for it.
It was right when I moved in with Justin.
Yeah, there was a couple. Well, I drove for your birthday, but there was a couple other shows I drove to Lawrence for, which is what made me decide I should probably just move there instead of driving 5 hours every time I wanted to go see a house show.
So after that show, I was going to ride my bike home. I lived about 3/4 mile away or something like that from the Flanders House. So I got on my bike and I was hella wobbly, and I was like, whoa. Well, physics tells me that if I go faster, I'll wobble less. So I was riding my bike as fast as I could, and I crashed into a tree and flipped over the handlebars and landed in a pile of broken glass. And it really hurt. And I had to walk my bike the rest of the way home because I couldn't ride it because I was in so much pain. And then I got home, and there was like after hours there or something going on. There wasn't a ton of people, like maybe 10 people were over there, and so I went to my room to get my ghetto blaster and bring it down to play music, and I fell down the stairs and hurt myself even more.
That's great.
That was a fun night.
That was when you lived with Justin off Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was we call that the annex.
That was the house that I eventually moved into. I took over Justin's room
Yes.
when Justin moved out.
Yeah.
But I do remember...
You guys had a show there one time. I believe it was...
Element.
Element, Deadfall Autumn, and...
My band. That's not fair to the universe or the molecules.
Yeah, well, do you remember that I was, like, originally, like, me and Justin were starting a band, and then it just, like, you showed up with a bass, and Michael showed up with his cello, and then, like...
No, it was viola.
Yeah, it's the viola. Like, that grew out of a band I was in, but then I think
really?
I just... Yeah, I
didn't
couldn't make it
remember
to practice that often, because I
You lived in
a half hour.
Kansas City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember
I
that.
didn't remember that. All right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Sorry that you didn't get to play 2 shows with us.
Well, apology not accepted.
I am an asshole, so.
So
No, that's okay.
I gotta ask, because it seems like everybody went to the show. I missed it. Were you at the Locust show?
Oh, yeah. I thought you guys wanted to save this for another time.
Oh my god!
Why not?
I got to talk
Why
about it
not
because
just talk about
I
it
am
now?
so fucking. I am irritated to this day that I missed that show because I don't remember what happened. I was either stuck at work or I was like at some girl's house and couldn't like. I can't. There was some reason I couldn't get home, and by the time I got home, I got my like 12-pack ready, and I was like sweet, and I was like running down the street with my 12-pack in hand and cop cars everywhere, and I was like fuck, and I did like an about face and walked right back to my house, and I was like, oh man, I hope Jerbear gets back soon. I hope he's not arrested or something, because you were at that, weren't you?
Fuck yeah, I was.
Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about the show more. Johnny, do you remember who opened for them? Because somebody played inside the Pirate House beforehand.
It was...
I don't remember who it was.
Chimera, Kyle Cardenas
Yeah.
and Nate Hoffman. And I was in that band at one point, but I don't admit to it. So actually, I was
You just
not
did.
in
You
that
just
band.
admitted to it.
No, it was not me. It was not me. But yeah, no, they played inside. And then I remember, too, because that day I was hanging out. Who was I? I was with Kelsey and maybe Andy IY. And like
Leslie,
we went to the...
Leslie was hanging out with them a lot, and I was hanging out with Leslie a whole lot at that point. So, like, it could have been her as well, because I think. Continue telling the story, and I'll. Get to
like
my
we
point
went to the thrift
later.
store and bought like shit, just weird shit to wear for it. Like I had like an old man looking hat and like a big Country t-shirt. You remember that band Big Country from the 80s? I don't know. And yeah, they dressed up like bugs and played on the fucking porch, and it was over in like 4 minutes. It was amazing.
So I was standing next to Jeremy Kaufman, and we were both timing it. And I was like, I give him 6 minutes. And we each have like a slightly different time. I think he says it went on a little bit longer, but I timed it as 6 minutes and 11 seconds before the cops showed up. So, I mean, I posted a picture of the Pirate House. It's got a pretty big porch.
Yeah.
They, for whatever reason, they decided they were going to play on the porch, and I think they're a really trolly band, so they were probably just trolling everybody by deciding to play on the porch. They're loud as fuck. They knew the cops would come, I'm sure, and just probably wanted to see what they could get away with. So they
went on
porch.
Jerry Springer. They're like, totally into.
So they played on the porch, loud as fuck, for 6 minutes and 11 seconds by my count before the cops showed up, and it was fucking amazing. Like, it was the most like weird and surreal thing. Like, people were in the street watching it. That's probably why the cops came, because the crowd couldn't fit in the yard of the Pirate House. So it was on 14th Street, and into that apartment that was across the street from the Pirate House. So, and there's, I mean, it was the Locust, and they weren't as big as they got later, but they were still a pretty well-known band in the underground scene. So, I mean, I'd say there's 100, 200 people there crowding into the street and shit, and it was fucking cool. And so
we're still talking about it, over 20 years later.
Yeah, 22 years later or whatever. They stayed. They stayed with Leslie next door at the Maxi Pad. I believe that's what they called it.
That's a great name for it.
And we all went to Clinton Lake and went swimming at the lake. That's why you couldn't find me, because I was swimming with the Locust at a shitty Kansas lake.
I think that I thought that you'd been arrested or something. Like, I was fuck. It's like, fuck, Jerbear got arrested.
And this is pre-cell phone, so it's not like...
Right. Yeah, I couldn't fucking track you down or anything like that. So I was just like, fuck. One, how am I gonna get my friend out of jail? And two, if I don't get him out of jail, how am I gonna pay rent?
Yeah.
There goes half the rent right there.
Another Flanders show that I remember is Bongzilla played there.
I wasn't at that one, but
you weren't at that one? Okay, so
I don't think I was at that one either.
So
was that when I was in St. Louis, or did I just miss that one?
I think you were in St. Louis.
Okay.
It's crazy they played the Flanders, though.
Yeah. Well, they were huge fucking assholes. To me. So I went to my friend's house
at that time. I'm sorry, but that was kind of par for the course. At that time, you would get antagonistic with bands, and it would just kind of happen.
I didn't do anything this time. So I just showed up at my friend's house to see a band that I liked. And they were carrying gear in, and I was like, you need help carrying anything? I'm just trying to be a nice guy. And they're like, fuck you, you fucking hipster. You better get the fuck out of here. And I was like, what? Wow. Fuck you guys. I'm going to stay here extra. Fucking assholes. Like, I really thought that whichever one it was, I don't know, he's a big Hesher-looking piece of shit, really seemed angry, like he was going to beat me up for being, for whatever reason he thought, a hipster. That was hilarious. And to be fair, there were times in my life where I looked like a really big douchebag hipster, but that wasn't one of them.
Well, and they're like hipster, white belt, this was... That was a thing at that time too. Like, I remember, I go to a show one day and I don't have patches all over my pants, and I have people like, "Oh, you fucking emo now, you hipster now." It's, people were really I don't want to name names, but really concerned about it.
Awesome, fucking gatekeepers.
Yeah. So I don't. That's all I remember about that show. I was pissed off. I thought they were assholes. And their music is boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that one's fair enough. That one was not you being antagonistic to a band, so I'll let you off on that one.
Did either of you go to the Drop Dead show? That place by South Park? I think it's a guitar store now.
I don't think so.
I don't remember Drop Dead playing.
It would have been 98, probably.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So this is another me being a dumbass. Like, I loved Drop Dead. They were one of my favorite bands at the time. And you listen back in the day. You listen to a band, you don't see their pictures, you don't see what they look like, nothing like that. So you get to a show and you expect to see I don't know, some crusty motherfuckers or something, and they're all Heshers. Their drummer is super into metal, and I'm not talking shit. It's great, but it just wasn't what I expected. And then their singer Bob, I'm talking to him and introduced myself. I was like, hey, thanks for playing. Thanks for coming to town. It's super rad. We get to see cool fucking bands here. I introduced myself, and he said his name was Bob, and, I was already drunk. And, like, this motherfucker from Drop Dead's name is Bob? Your name is fucking Bob? And, I said that. I was like, your name's fucking Bob? And he was like, just, like, get the fuck away from me. I was like,
Jesus Christ. See what I mean? You had the ability to piss off a band in like one sentence. That was like your superpower.
But their drummer, who I talked to like quite a bit more, he was into offset printing as well, and at the time I worked at an offset printing company, so we shared stories about how dirty we got working at a print shop.
Did you go to the Disconto show at the Pirate House? Disconto,
German, right?
They're Swedish.
They
were really good. I'm not pissing them off. I remember they were playing, and I was really enjoying it. And at some point between songs, for whatever reason, I was like, "Play a cover." the guy's like in his accent is like, "Okay, we have just come here from across the ocean. We've come from Sweden. It is several thousand miles away to play our music for you, but he wants us to play a cover." I don't know why I said it. I was like immediately like, oh yeah, maybe I should have thought that through. But he wasn't mad. He was disappointed. I could see he was disappointed, and I felt bad. So
he probably thought like, he came over to the U.S. with the best. The best of intentions, thinking like, what, people always say these Americans are loudmouth assholes, but I'm gonna give them a chance. I'm gonna give them a chance, and then now he's like flying back to Sweden. He's on his way back to Stockholm, just being like, I was right, man. These guys are fucking assholes.
Well, so I don't know. Have you been to Sweden?
I've been to Sweden.
I haven't been to Sweden.
Okay, so you're in the middle of Kansas. You're in a college town. You're this dirty fucking house with, 20 bikes hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah.
What other weird shit was around the Pirate House? I mean, I can't imagine it was clean. But, they're Disconto, so, they're probably used to crusty-ass shit, but...
Yeah, the one dude had, like, dreads, so it's like... And they were disgusting. Like, I didn't smell his dreads...
You didn't,
but I don't have to. I know they smelled bad.
Yeah, and we
all had filthy dreads back then.
Yeah, it was.
I never did the dread thing.
Neckbone never had dreads.
I never had dreads.
I only tried for like a week or two.
Oh, really?
And yeah, like and was just like, I can't do this.
I had the grossest fucking dreads. They were so fucking gross and nasty. So. Just as an example, I went to see the Flaming Lips, and it was, I don't know, I'd probably had my hair dreaded for about 6 months, and they dropped confetti from the ceiling. And a year and a half later, when I cut my dreads off, I still had Flaming Lips confetti in my hair.
That doesn't surprise me at all. No, I went straight from the mohawk to just, using clippers just to cut my hair myself. Like, and I was just like, what, hair is, I don't want to have to put effort into anything. So,
which might be more punk than like spiking your hair and worrying about pretty dreads and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you also didn't spend hours sewing patches on.
Right. I can't believe how much time I used to spend spiking up my mohawk, and then one day I was just like, oh, fuck this. I'm just going to buzz it all off and just not have to worry about it. It was way easier. Getting ready took no time.
Hygiene was not a priority for any of us.
No. Especially, like, in some of those houses, like, I never lived at the Flanders House or the Pirate House, but I did live at the Annex and Central House, too. And, I don't remember how much I showered at the Annex, Not much. And at Central House too, I don't think we had a functional shower. We had the tub was still there, but I don't think any of the plumbing worked. So it was just kind of like every once in a while you might wash your pits in the sink or something, but that's about the extent of it.
So as I remember, the annex wasn't that bad though. Like
no, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
The Flanders was fucking gross.
Annex was way cleaner than
Central
the Flanders.
House too.
Yeah. Central House is the most disgusting place I've ever lived in my entire life.
Central House was gross.
I didn't go to Central House 2. I don't remember that, but Central House 1 and the Flanders House were grosser than some squats that I've been to.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Like fucking gnarly.
Both Central Houses.
Those people, that number of people could destroy a house so much that it would be that. I took a shower at the Flanders one time, and I came out dirtier than before I went in.
Yeah.
It's like, this isn't a reference to filthiness, but one time we like ate fucking breakfast cereal with like leftover 40 beer. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, just if you're going places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gnarly. There was a hole. There was a hole in the floor in somebody's bedroom too, right? You could just.
What, the Flanders?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Joe's room. I think that was Joe's.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like Joe's room.
Yeah. Yeah. He lost part of his wall collapsed too while he was living there in his bedroom. It just like collapsed while he was just like hanging out. It was like, oh fuck, I guess there goes the wall. All right.
Jesus Christ. So our balcony at the Boston apartment was really fucking gross too. Because we just
remember
ashed ashed our cigarettes all over the place.
Right.
So if you walked out there barefoot, your feet were black.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there were ash
there was
cans too,
spilled
though, because
beer everywhere.
I remember one time I accidentally took a drink out of the ash can and
fuck.
threw up a little bit over the balcony.
Yeah. That's always a risk. I was picking up my youngest from Latchkey, and I had a seltzer water with me, like a can of seltzer water, and I was shaking it before I took a drink of it. And she's like, why are you doing that? I was like, I didn't even realize I still did that.
Yeah.
That's ingrained in me from living at punk houses where people would put cigarettes in beer cans, and you always shook your beer can before you drank it to make sure there's not a cigarette put in it. And
now
apparently I do it to this day.
Now I know this would be jumping ahead pretty significantly, but do you want to tell your Chicago story?
Oh fuck yeah, I'll do that, since Johnny told his story about puking from drinking an ass can beer. In 2008, because my back was still fucked up. I went to visit Neckbone in Chicago. It was my first visit there. And it was a pretty wild weekend. It was a lot of fun. We hung out with the Gun Shy. You were there. You were playing shows, I think, Johnny. Was that when Johnny was playing shows?
I think so.
I think it was. One of your bands.
I remember hanging out with you there like at Joe's wedding.
That was years later, though. That was like 2015 or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we went to breakfast at a diner. What was the diner called?
The diner was called Le Sabre.
Oh, that sounds fancy.
It does.
Or it's like a Buick.
It is a was a 24-hour, just like one of those like countertop, like shitty, like go get food there because you're drunk and it's 4 a.m. type of places that just serve pancakes, omelets, stuff like that. Just basic breakfast shit.
It was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'd been up drinking most of the night, and we're pretty hungover. And had the wonderful idea to go there, and as I do, I ordered an omelet with Swiss cheese, some hash browns, some coffee, eating our food, everything's good. And you're not vegan anymore. You haven't been in a while, right, Johnny? Okay. No. So you know the texture of Swiss cheese when it's a little bit burnt, like it's kind of chewy, a little bit hard maybe, but
Yeah.
delicious, wonderful. Swiss cheese is so good. So I have a bite of omelet, and I hit a chewy spot, and I think maybe it's just some burnt cheese, but it's like chewier and harder than that. So I'd like really like grind down on it, and then I get that tickle in the back of my throat from nicotine that you get, and I was like, no, there's no fucking way. There is no fucking way. I haven't said anything yet, but I'm just like, I grind on it again. Sure fucking enough, I pull out a fucking cigarette butt from a smoked cigarette, and I threw it on the table, and I stood up as loudly as I could. I said, there was a fucking cigarette butt in my omelet. And the waitress comes over, and she's like, what? I was like, there was a motherfucking cigarette butt in my omelet. And she's like, oh, hell no. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, hell no. I'm the one that fucking ate it. And she's like, well, you don't have to pay for that. I'm like, no shit, motherfucker. You should fucking pay me, because now I got to go somewhere else to fucking eat. I'm hungry. Oh,
I don't think any of us paid
awful.
for our food at that.
No.
I think we just kind of got up and left.
So I have I have a couple theories of how it got into the
Oh, yeah.
omelet.
We CSI'd this.
So it was like a drizzly morning, okay? Mm-hmm. So my greatest fear about this situation was the fucking cook went out to smoke a cigarette on his break or something, smoking, throws it down, steps on it, sticks to his shoe, goes back inside, making omelets, drops some, bends over, picks it up, and, puts it in my omelet along with the cigarette butt that got stuck to it. That's my fear. But I told somebody the story, and they're like, it was probably behind his ear, and it probably fell into whatever he was cooking, which I think is the more likely scenario.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But boy, am I sure scared that it came off the bottom of his shoe.
Yeah.
Well,
And you'll never know.
And immediately after that happened, I went out to smoke a cigarette because I was pissed.
Right. But we did. We walked down the street. We got you a slice of pizza. There was a Chicago's
we went to get pizza.
Yeah. We got you a slice, and you could see the whole thing, so you knew that there wasn't a cigarette butt in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Le Sabre closed down, surprisingly.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's crazy too, because like when I go to Chicago, one of the things I'm most excited about is always eating. There's so much good food in fucking Chicago, but
there is, but there are also, for whatever reason, Chicago is obsessed with like shitty diners. Like,
yeah,
there's so many.
They're everywhere.
And there's golden. All of them are golden something. There's a golden angel, golden nugget, golden, like they're all golden something. And I'm like,
I hope there's a golden shower.
Probably. So when Joe lived on the south side, I went down there, and there was this diner down the street from him, and for some reason, like they had, if you walk in and a place hands you a menu and it's as long as like a short story, then that's a shitty
Bad
sign.
Yeah, bad sign.
And they gave us this menu that was, I swear to God, like 20 fucking pages long. And they even had in there a section. They had beer at this diner because it's Chicago. And it's just part of the culture of Chicago to just like have constant alcohol. That's why bars are up until like 5 a.m. sometimes. But there's a section in this menu, and there's a section for imported beers and a section for exported beers. It's like, wait, if the beer's been exported, how are we getting it?
You can't have it.
We got a guy.
Export.
He drives it up to Canada and he brings it back.
Right back. It has been exported, and now we bring it to you.
Makes it more exotic. I don't know.
Courtesy of Winnipeg.
So, can we just briefly list some of the really cool fucking shows that happened in town that like people might be surprised that actually
like in Lawrence?
to Kansas. Yeah.
Lawrence or Kansas City or both?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Fugazi in, what was that?
Yeah.
01?
Yeah.
2000, 2001, something like that.
At El Torion, yeah.
Yeah, at El Torion, that was fucking rad.
Yeah.
Great
Citizen
was a really
Fish.
good show there. Citizen Fish at the Bottleneck.
Yeah.
Submission Hold at the Pirate House.
Against Me, the fucking Flanders House.
Two
Jesus
Against
Christ.
Me shows at the Flanders House.
Phobia at the Pirate House was amazing.
Dude. So in like right after I got sober, it would have been summer of 2014. Phobia played at this little shit bar, like less than a mile from my current house.
Did their van break down there or something?
Well, we had like a there was a grindcore band here that was pretty prolific playing shows and getting bands to town, and I think they probably got them to town. I don't know if they still play anymore. They were called Knife Wound. The Locust Show, obviously, is fucking wild. Grimple.
The Grimple Show
At the Replay.
Yeah,
that was because I remember like I got a ride with Chris Kellogg, and I can't. He had like an old. It was like a third
you guys
gen.
Just stayed outside, right?
I got in.
You got in? Holy shit!
I got
you were
in.
like 16.
I was 15. And
Jesus
I went
Christ.
around back, and like Grimple was there, and I was like, hey, just like looking around. He's like, yeah, here, grab this guitar. And I just followed him in, and I fucking got in.
Nice. That's so fucking cool.
well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing you, Neckbone, right outside, like when I first got there, and you were like, we were talking about like pants being more comfortable when you don't wash them. You were like, I haven't washed these pants in 2 weeks. It feels like I'm wearing nothing. And you know what? You looked really relaxed.
Yeah.
You did.
I was so relaxed, in fact, that I thought I would, one, jump into the mosh pit with a bottle of alcohol, which is why I'm missing part of a tooth, and two, comfortable enough to hit on somebody whose boyfriend was just right across the bar and had a fake English accent for about half the conversation I had with her.
And Sarah and BJ saved you.
They did. They dragged me out of there. That guy would have kicked my ass, and like, he was way bigger than me. Just not difficult.
That was a pretty crusty thing to say for somebody who wasn't really a crusty neckbone.
Which part?
Oh, about your pants.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think you were an influence on me. I just kind of, when I lived with you, I kind of just stopped showering and didn't wash my clothes as often, and I was like, this is just easier. This is a lot easier.
It was yeah. Fuck. Bread and Water played the Pirate House. That was fucking cool. God, who else, man? There's so many fucking shows. It's hard to remember them all.
Timmy Oski was really good.
Sufi Nun Squad was fun.
Yeah.
They were friends.
They were amazing.
Yeah.
They were amazing. I'm trying to think. There's so many good shows.
Yeah, I can't keep them all straight. Like, it seemed like for a while, every weekend there were matinee shows at the Pirate House sometimes too. Like,
oh yeah, I remember
so much wild shit.
JBK used to play, and then because our drummer lived there, and he would make up a flyer for the matinee show, and 6-inch Voice would play a lot. Like there was Lost Pride. I'm just naming bands at this point, but what Jesse would do is he would put the names of like classic punk bands you would know that weren't actually playing, but he'd put like Black Flag on there, but there was really good reasoning. He's like, well, you probably haven't heard of these bands, but if you like Black Flag, you should come by because you'll probably like this too,
Probably the funnest one that I've left off is so at the Pirate House every Thursday night had potluck, vegan potluck.
Oh, I remember.
So we'd come over for vegan potluck, and one night like Jesse and Thule and some of the other people were doing like puppet show with Star Wars toys, and they were trying to find out which Springfield The Simpsons was set in. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was very funny. Maybe Laszlo was part of that too, since he's an improv guy. It could have been. But anyway, one night there was a potluck and a band from Omaha showed up, and they were all wearing like tight pants and had a bunch of synthesizers with them. Everybody looked really confused, and turns out it was the fucking Faint.
Yeah.
And they played the Pirate House potluck, and there was just a bunch of dirty fucking crust punks really confused about what was going on, but it was incredible. And I think that was Blank Wave Tour when they were, still pretty small. And yeah, that was fucking wild ass night. I think Q and Not You played the Pirate House too, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that was fucking dope.
The fucking Orchid played. They were amazing.
Oh,
Orchid
yeah.
played with the Blood Brothers, I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a
remember
a
the
lot of
Blood
that stuff was
Brothers.
good too, but there was a thing, it was like, yeah, the Faint, that's a great band, but also like, well, you're not allowed to like them,
Yeah, it was
the-
weird, but like, I mean, I remember seeing Faint stickers all over the Pirate House, and everybody remembering it really fondly, but like, it was really weird at the time. And the next time they came to town, like, everybody was there and everybody was dancing and having a really good time. People kind of chilled out because, like, by 2001, the house to the south of the Pirate House was full of indie rockers, and they had that band An Old Surrender with Charlie and Quinn and Kate, and they were a really good band, and they were lots of fun. And so, like, some of the weird tension that may or may not have existed between the punk rockers and the indie rockers kind of dissipated, and everybody started hanging out together and having fun more so than it had previously been.
Yeah.
There previously there had been a lot of shit talking on like the indie rockers and the white belts, and towards the end of my time in Lawrence, it seemed a lot more friendly, and everybody was kind of hanging out and chilling together.
There was
instead
still
of
shit
talking
talking,
shit.
but it was kind of more like good-natured jabbing.
Right, yeah.
Right, because that's the thing about the Kansas scene in general is at some point you have to go like, we're both considered on the fringe for where we live, so maybe we should stick together.
Well,
maybe not as much in Lawrence, but in Kansas definitely. Like you just kind of like we talked about before, like you see somebody and like the Faint shirt, and you're just like, oh, you listen to stuff that isn't just the same stuff everybody else listens to, so now we're friends.
Yeah. Well, and
they were more fun than like, there was also this contingent of like G.G. Allen train hopper style oogles that lived in Lawrence. And they were considerably less fun to hang out with, I thought.
Well, and sometimes they live at your house. Like some of them lived at the 19th Street house, which I have not talked about the 19th Street house at all. But yeah, they would crash there sometimes. And that was Jerbear. That was way after you left. But I was not a fan.
Well, I think another point of contention could have been, and contention is a strong word, but there were some people living at the Pirate House who tried to make it straight edge all the time.
Oh yeah,
and like we like to party a lot, so I would fuck with them and think I was super clever and hilarious by drawing circles on my hands and going over there and talking about Owen up, and if I see you without a PBR and a cigarette, I'm gonna carve a circle in your back. Just being a fucking dumbass. But that kind of chilled out later too, because I just think that half of them stopped being straight edge, and the rest I think kind of stopped being so uptight, and uptight might be the wrong word about it, but just stop being overly concerned.
Yeah,
right. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sober now, so I definitely see the merit in having like chill spaces for people to hang out in that isn't like a bunch of drunk, crazy people. But
at the same time, if you have a house where you're having a bunch of shows and parties in a college town, and it's a bunch of punk shows, I'm sorry, there's going to be alcohol there. There's no way, and probably a bunch of other shit too. There's no way around it. You have to kind of embrace that that's just a fact, and try to at least rein it in so that it's not destructive.
Right.
Which is something that's easy to say now that I'm in my 40s. I think at the time, I was so personally offended when they went straight edge at the Pirate House for some reason, even though I could drink at my house. I remember one time, I don't know if you remember this, we went to the Pirate House. They were not having a show, and I think everybody was in bed probably. And we just went there with booze, and we just sat on the porch and fucking drank. We just drank till we got shit-faced. And somebody came out and was like, "What are you guys doing here?" We're like, "Getting fucked up." And like, I don't remember what we thought we were proving with that, or like why we thought that was a good. We had our own porch. We could have just drank at our house, but for some reason we were wanting to be defiant.
We walked the whole 100 yards that way to see if anything was going on, so we probably just had to stay there.
Probably, yeah. Maybe it wasn't defiance. Maybe it was laziness.
Well, we're here.
Yeah.
So, one time, I was with Leslie, and we were somewhere where we had to drive. I don't know where we were. I remember what we were doing in that I was completely out of my head. I think. I smoked some weed probably and then drank way too much. And whenever I did that, it was like instant blackout and Jerbear needs babysat drunk. And she dropped me off at the Pirate House and I couldn't find my way home. And I lived at the annex, which you could see the annex from the Pirate House.
It, yeah.
And I was like,
it is less than a block. It's like maybe less than half a block.
Leslie, I don't know where I'm at. I don't know where I am. How do I get home? And she's like, your house is right there. Like, I can't see it. I'm lost. I don't know how to get home.
There were times in those days. There was one time we'd been drinking in downtown Lawrence, and thankfully Leahy was there, but I had to carry you home. And thank God Leahy was there to help me, because you are, what, 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5" and a half.
I'm 5'9" and a half. There's nothing stranger looking than this, average sized guy carrying a giant, you were like, you had your head on my shoulder and you were crying about something. I don't remember what exactly. I think that someone you were hitting on hurt your feelings. If I'm going to be completely honest, I think that's what had happened. And Leahy and I managed to get you back to the annex. We tucked you into bed, and we were just like, all right, I rolled you onto your side. Be like, there you go. Don't puke. Don't puke on your back.
So, I don't know what was going on, why I was at the tap room without you. But I was at the 8th Street tap room, and I think I was hanging out with BK and some of the other indie rockers, and I got cut off at the bar. They wouldn't serve me anymore, and so I went to the bartender. I was like, "Listen, man, I got a 12-pack of Pabst at home. If you serve me one more drink, when I get home, I'm only gonna drink half of it. But if you don't serve me, I'm going to drink the whole fucking thing when I get home. So you really need to serve me a drink." And he's like, "Nah, man, I don't give a shit what you do when you're at home," which is the correct answer.
Right.
But I was trying to barter with
the
him.
logic here.
I love that you thought you were going to out logic him with like, all right, man, I've got a mind exercise for you here. I think it's miraculous that he actually listened to that entire thought before just being like, "Get the fuck out of here."
So I pouted on the steps to go to the upstairs part of the tap room. I sat there and pouted for a little while, and then I went outside and fell asleep on the sidewalk. and slept on the sidewalk for, I don't know, a while, and wound up wandering home to the annex. And when I got to the annex, you were there, and Katie and Alex were there. Liz might have been there too. I don't know. There was like 10 people. And I think that's another night where, I came home and I fucking drank that 12-pack just like I said I would.
You kept your promise.
I think I fell down the stairs that night also. And I think that was the same night somebody stole all my homies, or our homies.
There was a period there where, like, I don't know what, like, you would get hurt, like, at the drop of a hat.
Me?
Like, yeah. Like, falling downstairs. Like, you've mentioned falling downstairs multiple times. I'm like, oh my God, I fucking forgot about that shit. Like, there's so many times where, like, almost like Keystone Cops level of, like, just an absolute, like, comedy of disasters. Like,
Well, I mean, to be fair, I was drinking heroic amounts of alcohol.
you absolutely were. And the flipping of your handlebars, and like, I'm like, my God, I forgot all about this shit, dude.
Yeah.
You just got hurt. I always thought it was funny that Brandon. You remember when Brandon? Remember when he got a DUI on his bike?
Yeah, I do.
Is that?
He was so pissed.
How do you get a DUI on a bike?
It's operating a vehicle under the influence. You can get a DUI on a bike.
I think they let him ride home too. I think
After they gave it to him.
I don't remember.
That's wild.
Like,
That's
yeah, like Neckbone and Brandon had some weird ass shit happen to them that like happens to nobody else. Like,
yeah.
the two of you, I think, are unique in that like the weirdest shit happens to you guys.
I and my wife always tells me that I attract like crazy and just weird, and she thought that I was making some of this shit up until like we started like doing stuff like riding buses together and stuff, and she was just like, you just
She
like
experienced it.
this like the weirdest fucking people, and like for whatever reason, cops are antagonistic to you. For whatever reason, like the craziest people come up and directly, like they lock eyes with me, and they're just like, that fucking guy. There could be like 50 other people on the bus, and they're like, they see me from across the crowd, and they're like elbowing through seas of humanity to make it to me, and I'm sitting there and like old jeans, like some obscure band t-shirt that's faded, and like they're like walking past people who are like wearing suits and stuff, and they're just like, hey man, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking to me? What did I do? I'm just sitting here. Headphones and sunglasses, that's my fuck off stance. Like, don't talk to me. Headphones and sunglasses.
Do you remember that gross ass couch at the Flanders that I think maybe like had ticks in it too?
The one on the porch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
falling apart.
I slept on the couch before.
Yeah, so did Jeremy too.
Yeah. There's a picture of me. I thought it was from the Central House, but it's I guess it was the Flanders, and I'm cuddling with my beer so nobody steals it from me.
I took that picture. I'm pretty sure I took that picture.
Oh yeah, probably.
I think. I gotta look. I actually wasn't gonna dig out pictures for this. I still have so many fucking patches. I was gonna take a picture of all the patches. A lot of it's local shit too, but
That's even better.
it's mostly shit I made and Nick made, but
Yeah, definitely. Especially local patches and stuff. Definitely want to see those.
What's this about Chris Kellogg? Chris Kellogg's, does that say Camaro? What the fuck is that?
dude, for the Grimple show, I got a ride with him, and like, do you remember that fucking like 80s rusted out Joe Dirt-ass Camaro he had?
He had a Camaro? When the fuck did he have a Camaro?
I don't know if it was a Camaro, but it was very much like an 80s bottom of the line sports car type thing.
I think he had a truck. Didn't he have a truck at some point? I remember him having
this
a
was
truck.
after. Like we have to ask him.
Yeah.
I wish I had a picture because it was amazing. But I got a ride to the Grimple show with him, but like the windows were broken and I had to like sit in the back with the windows open, and it was freezing cold. That's it. It's actually not much of a story.
I do not remember him having that car.
Oh God, he had an amazing fucking. It was
Should
it was
we
something.
Should we talk about Killed in the Face, or should we save that for later?
Oh, I think you got to have Chris and Thule on at some point, and that's.
Thule has agreed to be on, but man, that was one of my all-time favorite things was Killed in the Face.
It was very good.
What a brilliant fucking idea! Like the silly terrorism that they wrought upon people.
What was Killed in the Face? Did I miss that?
Was when Chris wore a gorilla mask and cape and played a trombone, and Mike Thule wore an orange safety barrel, like a felt orange safety barrel. And what did he play? Did he have like a single drum or something, like a snare drum?
Professor Safety.
Yeah, and they like busted into frat houses and frat bars and would play like a song. Like somebody would drive them there, wait in the car. They would get out and play a song and run back to the car and drive off and go somewhere else.
Yeah, because they would have gotten beat up if they'd stuck around too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some band was playing the Pirate House. Maybe Johnny remembers which band it was. And you know, the frat bar across the street was being super fucking obnoxious. And one of the dudes from the touring band walked by and sprayed mace.
Yeah, who was that?
I don't know. Maybe Brandon would remember that. I'm not sure. But all these fucking frat boys just started piling over the fence, and there was like a huge brawl in the middle of the street between punk rockers at the show and all these frat boys. And then there was another one at Andy IY's birthday party at the Pirate House. Some fucking frat boy walked by and pushed over a shopping cart full of presents people got her, and it turned into a huge melee in the middle of the street. It was like that one was fucking hilarious. It was like a old Looney Tunes cartoon where there's just like balls of dust and limbs flying and fists flying around, and there was like 6 different ones all around, and like me and Joshua Haynes are like punching this one dude, and like people were over in another group of people punching around. It was fucking hilarious. It was pretty fun too, to be honest. Like, I'm not much of a fighter, but that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that might have been during the Rainbow Dungeon of Rock era. So I was probably I was living in KCK at the time. I loved the Rainbow House. I still drink a lot, but I wasn't as self-destructive during that time as I had been in Lawrence.
I think I was a bad influence on you.
Probably. I still drink a lot, but I didn't have the self-destructive kind of tendencies. So I just had a really good time every time I went to the Rainbow House. It was walking distance from my apartment, so.
I mean, I went there 3 or 4 times and I had a really good time.
I mostly liked it. I guess I won't name names, but then I went there one time, and somebody that can't remember if they just hung out all the time or lived there, but kept trying to get me to do a shot of mustard. Like, she really wanted me to do a shot of mustard, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do a shot of mustard. And like, I was there hanging out until she kept asking me, and I was like, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna do a shot of mustard, but. And then I just wouldn't go back to the Rainbow House after that. I would think about it and be like I would think about it for years. Like, she just kept bugging me about the fucking mustard, and I was like, I don't want to go back there. That lady's gonna make me drink mustard.
Oh my God.
What a weird thing to do. And like,
no,
I wouldn't expect that from her. I don't know.
No, not at all. She
It
must
seems
have been
like
like
a really weird thing for a really weird person to do, and she seemed mostly normal to me.
right. She might have been all drunk on that camo malt liquor.
Oh,
They were always trying to like, they'd be like trying to find somebody to like get to put makeup on or something like that. It's just, I guess, fun, goofy stuff.
right.
All right, so okay, yeah, you can ask me about the mustard, but it's like she just kept asking about the fucking mustard. I was like, it put me off the place for a long time. I
Like,
was
did she
no,
dose the mustard with something? What's
I
the
don't
deal?
know. I think it was just to
she-
see if she could get me to do it. And it's just like, no, I don't want to.
Like a social experiment.
So after that, I just didn't hang out there that much anymore.
That's wild. Oh my god. Wow. I got to reach out to her.
Yes,
Get her to listen to the podcast and ask her about the fucking mustard. Like, what is the deal with you and mustard?
There's a show I'm really sad that I missed at, I believe it was the Haunted Kitchen, when 1905 played there. I really wish I could have seen that show because I fucking love 1905.
Were you?
I don't know them.
Oh, for
Yeah.
real?
Yeah, I don't think I know them
they're-
either.
So it's like a mixture of like half the time they sound like Anti-Schism, maybe. They've got dual male female vocals, sometimes screamed, and sometimes they play acoustic, and they both like actually sing, and it's very pretty.
Interesting.
They're so fucking good. But
I'll check 'em
Dave
out.
told me they
Yeah.
played at the Haunted Kitchen because I posted about them, and he's like, yeah, they played at the Haunted Kitchen. I thought you were there, but I wasn't there.
Did you go to any
But I
shows
wish I
at the
could've
Haunted
seen-
Kitchen?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
By the time when I mean I'm pretty sure that I did, but
Yeah.
by the time I was going to shows there, that was like
You were
my
back in Wichita
darkest
already.
Time in
Yeah.
Lawrence. It would have been right before I left, and I left because I was so
Okay.
out of control in Lawrence.
Because I started hanging out at the Haunted Kitchen when when I left Kansas City and moved back to Lawrence to go to KU. Yeah,
They
I
had
lived.
just started putting shows on there when I was
Yeah.
leaving, so it was a really, really new place
Okay.
when I left.
Yeah.
But I think that like probably Getaway Driver and Salty Earth played there
Oh yeah.
before I
Okay.
left. So I think I
Yeah.
saw
Oh,
them.
Salty. I remember Salty Earth playing there. Yeah.
Did Fadil live there?
I remember Daniel, Jeff. God, who else lived there? It was all Okies. It was all Okies
Oh,
living
okay.
there.
Daniel and Jeff, there was at some point that dude Kenneth from like the Spread Eagles lived upstairs.
Yeah, okay. So
I don't think Howie and Dylan ever lived there.
Oh, I think didn't Jamie live there for a little while?
I think Jamie lived
I
there.
think Jamie lived there. Yeah.
Jamie was after my time too. I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
I first met her at the Rainbow House, and she started hanging out at Central. And
Jamie
she
and
lives-
I-
That.
What's
Oh,
that?
we went to high school together. She's a year older than me.
Oh,
In fact,
really?
when I was in middle school, I was like good friends with her younger brother, who honestly was sort of a dumbass. And then by the time I got to high school, I didn't hang out with him anymore, but I hung out with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jamie's cool as hell. When I was in like 8th grade, she made me a mixtape. And one side of it was like some of Penis Envy, and then like the Crass
Nice.
Records A-sides or
Oh,
B-sides
wow.
or whatever it is with Zounds and all that. And then the other side of the tape was Snoop Dogg and Corrupt.
Nice.
Nice.
So
That's a good fucking mixtape.
it was very formative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Johnny, in the what have you been up to in the last 20 years since we all kind of moved away from the punk scene and got on with our lives?
I lived in Kansas City for a while and like was playing in bands a little bit. Like I played in this country band that toured a bunch for a while, and then then I moved to Vietnam and taught English for a few years. And then I came back and I didn't want to live in Kansas City, so I moved up here to the Twin Cities, and I love it here. In fact, I moved up here, settled in, and then ended up living in another show house here for like 3 or 4 years. Oh, wow. So a punk house here that was good, that had a bunch of shows. And I still play in bands and stuff, but like I was into my 30s before I really like slowed down on being involved.
Do you want to talk about any of those bands and what you're up to now for people to check out, or not? Or you don't have to,
or your time on the hit TV show Chicago.
Oh, well, I was never on Chicago. I mean, I look like that one guitar player from 70s boy glam legends, Cozy, except
right.
Oh,
but they were from England anyway. And I'm not
You
really
could tell
as
by
handsome.
you could tell by their flawless English accents.
Oh God, I've been in a shit ton of bands. Yeah, I don't know. And
what are you doing now? You have a country and western band, don't you?
Yeah, Red Wing Blackbird, which is also sort of a funny thing. I'm in a punk band called Sparrowhawk that, I don't know, we got a good Maximum Rock and Roll review. We got a good
cool.
Razor Cake review on our last album, so that's cool. Still playing in punk bands. I almost stopped. There was a time I was like, well, I've played in a bunch of bands. I guess I don't need to do this anymore. But like, my buddy who's a drummer just kept calling me. And I'm like, what else am I going to do? I don't really care about sports. I don't know. I think being in bands is a good hobby as an adult.
Fuck yeah.
For a while, it seemed like a silly thing, like you need to grow up. But then you hear people talk about like, oh, a lot of men have trouble with having friendships as an adult. And, you know, it's like, no, being in a band is like a good way to go out and be creative. Like, I don't want to knock fantasy football, but it's cooler than fucking fantasy football.
Yeah.
I also bowl in a league, though.
Oh,
too.
that's pretty rad.
I love fucking bowling.
That's awesome. Yeah. I used to bowl all the time. I haven't bowled in years.
This show is great because it's great laughing about doing stupid stuff in punk houses. But I gotta say, like, I don't know. Punk has been a positive thing in my life.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I mean, there was a lot of chaos around my life, but as far as growing as a person and like core values that I still hold dear and strongly today, it all came from the punk rock scene. Like,
Yeah,
like,
me too.
My core values were formed in those years, and I still hold on to them to this day. You know, and people make jokes about punk rock saving their lives and shit like that, but like, addiction and abuse of chemicals aside, the community is what was really important to me. Like, you know, the music was great, the parties were great, but like, the community was what really made it important and special. And I don't think you can discount that for anything.
and even the things that start out bad can turn out good. We were talking about those potlucks. We were talking about Food Not Bombs.
Yeah.
Man, that food was not good. But I started. Oh, come on, shit was terrible. But you know, like I started to learn to cook there, and like now I would say I'm good at cooking. You know?
Yeah, look, man, if you put enough sriracha on anything, it tastes good.
You learn skills. You learn how to cook on a budget. You learn, and you meet all kinds of different people. I mean, going to a punk show, you can walk around and see all kinds of different people, different ages, different genders, different backgrounds, different, like, it just all kinds of different people, and they're just doing their own thing. Like, they're just being themselves, and at least most of the punk shows I've gone to, there's definitely some gatekeepers who are in there. But for the most part, like, everybody's pretty much, well, if you're there and you're there to be cool, like, you know, they're pretty cool with you. Like, I've dated some, you know, for lack of a better term, some pretty square women when I was in Lawrence, and I take them to punk shows and people are just like fucking cool to them. Like, oh, hey, welcome.
Yeah.
Want a beer?
Most of the people who tried to gatekeep in our scene were never taken seriously. Like, they were assholes, and nobody, at least that I hung out with, ever took those people seriously because they were just kind of dicks.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's a difference between gatekeeping and protecting your scene from harmful influences like neo-Nazis and fucking racism and shit like that. Like, I don't even consider that gatekeeping. I see that as keeping the scene safe for everyone.
Right.
Which is what I feel like what we tried to do was have a really open and inclusive scene. I didn't see a lot of trying to keep people out.
Yeah.
For any reason.
I didn't see much. I mean, on the one hand, it is probably easy for us to sit here and say that, but I mean, I haven't heard really any bad stories about our scene in particular from anyone else either who may have had a bad experience. And some of them have told me they've had bad experiences in other scenes. You know, like, you know, hey, you know, they didn't want me in the scene because I was black, and they didn't want me in this scene because, you know, I'm trans or, you know, because I'm whatever. And I didn't really see that as much in our scene. And it'd be nice if it didn't exist in punk anywhere, but
Right.
there's unfortunately going to be shitty people in every subcategory of people has shitty people in it, unfortunately.
There were people from other towns that were like, you're not going to believe this. There's this fucking town in the middle of Kansas that's cool, you know. There, like, it was cool. Lawrence was very cool.
Yeah. And yeah, people, you know, have told me many times, like, they're like, you know, oh, you were a punk, you know, you're a punk kid when you were in high school and through college and through your 20s, but didn't you grow up in Kansas? Yeah, they don't associate those two things together. Most of them also think I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
I remember you came back from San Diego one time, and you were visiting a friend, and one of her friends asked you if we had Twizzlers in Kansas.
Oh, yeah. That same person asked me how I got there. He said, how did you get here to San Diego? And I said, I drove. He said, oh, my God, you have cars?
What a fucking asshole.
Jesus.
And he was being serious. He was not trying to be, like, funny. Like, I think he seriously didn't think we had... I think he thought we were all, like, riding around on, like, horse and buggies still.
What a fucking dumbass.
Saddled up old Shep and headed out on the dusty trail.
Well, Little Johnny, it was really good kicking it with you and hanging out. I am a little disappointed and unfulfilled at your lack of gap filling. Like, I still have some gaping holes that you didn't fill.
So you would say that Johnny left you unsatisfied.
I am.
That is disappointing.
I failed to fill.
Perhaps there could be a next time.
Yeah, I think
I'll come
there
back
should
anytime.
Now that you know we've got this awkward stage taken care of, maybe next time you'll be more confident and
right.
Can
maybe do a shot of mustard
last
first.
a little longer.
I've had a great time. I maybe would have remembered more too. This is also like past my bedtime and I'm fading. But,
oh yeah. All right, thanks everybody for listening. I'm really tired. Thanks everybody for listening. I'm very tired and I am also sick. So I hope you've enjoyed my smoker's voice for this
It's
episode.
It is sultry. It's been
It is.
Velvety smooth.
distracting.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's why Johnny couldn't fill my gaps.
I can't.
Maybe
Sultry,
Distracting,
sultry,
With my-
svelte voice.
with my nasal, snot-filled sinus cavity voice.
Yeah.
Super hot.
I'm into that. I don't.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for listening. Listen again.
Bye.